it's not your time, so keep on moving. And it's not your line, so keep on fooling. And it's certainly not by design, so keep on breathing. Oh, we said we're all dying, stone to flesh, stone.
North Vietnam cannot defeat the United States. Only Americans can do that.
So rise with the sun, get sand in your shoe, blow a kiss to someone, tell them the good news. Everything's around the corner, so might as well have some fun. You're only one and done. Well, it's not your dime, so keep on singing. And it's not your crime, but keep on giving. And it's certainly not the divine, so keep on laughing. Oh, we said we're all dying, stone to flesh, stone. So take that trip, help that neighbor out, hold your loved ones tight, show them what it's all about. Everything's around the corner, so might as well have some fun. You're only one and done.
I don't know if you knew much about Judy's persona as the hummingbird, but I always thought of her as a hummingbird because she just seemed like she was most happy when she was just like, she was very intense for one thing, and then she also like moved around a lot, and she moved really quickly, like a hummingbird is there, and then bzzz, it's gone, you know, and it's wherever it is, it's where it is, and there's something equally important for it. There's the nectar at the next flower. But it's not the flower where you could have been the flower before, and then bzz, suddenly, you know, she's in another flower, equally engaged and intensely feeding. But if you were the first flower, you're not in, she's gone. She's gone. First she's here, and then she's gone.
Down in New Mexico, that was the first time you met Judy.
That's right. The summer of 1970, I went to New Mexico and stayed on the hog farm.
And do you know what that is?
That's the Wavy Gravy. They had the commune there with Wavy Gravy and Ken Kesey and some of the Deadheads.
What was it like when you first got
Oh my God, it was, well, if you come from New York and you're used to living in concrete, I never even saw vegetables grow. It was wild. People were all made up and people were cooking. There were no bathrooms. Everybody had school buses. Everyone lived in a school bus.
Rolling down the highway to see in the springtime, looking at a mountain I'd like to be, listen to the trees.
And that's where I first met Judy and Barry.
Gonna find a girl that I'd like to marry.
She's like a little pixie, just so full of energy, constantly moving around. That's, how Judy got her nickname, HummingBird. She was the kind of person who you met and she was family right away. I was kind of seeing Alonzo, who used to be Erica's boyfriend. What happened was Erica and I became really good friends. So we ditched him. She and I hitchhiked to Colorado.
How long did you guys stay together down in New Mexico?
Maybe a month. And Judy went back to upstate New York with Barry. Things weren't calculated and thought out the way they are now. This was much more of a free movement moment.
Riding the cloud over a rainbow, floating on the river down to the sea, into the sun. Wherever I go, I can be whatever I want to be.
Eric and I just went to Boulder. I remember we had $1. We had our long skirts and stuck our thumbs out, and we were in Colorado.
So long ago, Cedar. Very, very wispy memories. Well, I was panhandling in one part of the campus, and Lynn and Toad were playing in one part of the campus within sight of each other. They were a little louder than me, so they were getting more money than me. But I was still detracting from the hat. And so Lynn came over and started talking to me and saying, well, what are you doing? This is like our gig. And why don't we just play together? And I loved that. I thought they were great. I went over and jumped right into the band. And so we started this band called Magic Music.
And I feel the sun surround me.
We were sitting there thinking, well, we want to do music. Well, and it's going to take some magic to ever be good at it and to make anything happen. Well, then it's magic music. Somewhere in there we met Rob Galloway, nicknamed Puna, who was the first bass player for the group.
Magic Music was a blessing for me because I was just a street guy. There was no fabric to my life, so to speak. And they had a school bus. That was really cool.
You know why I take it pretty easy in El Dorado Canyon, chopping wood to stay alive.
We got a school bus and we all lived on the school bus. And eventually we got it parked in El Dorado Canyon, which is just south of Boulder.
We'd heard that you could go up there in the winter because it closed and the guy would let you camp for $1 a day.
Tamara, a girl that I eventually married, she was one of the first gals who was with us. She spent a lot of time in the school bus with us.
In the initial bus, which was called Yonder, we just had a wood stove and we had to haul water and chop wood. And it's a good thing we were young and healthy and dumb because it was like amazing we didn't get frostbite because we'd wake up with like ice on our beds,
El Dorado Canyon was like the only choice because shuttling the buses around town and trying to get showers was impossible.
1, 2, 3. I'm going down to the university. Got to find me some lovely lady.
We'd all go up into the dormitories up in CU, and the girls' dorms were always great.
But they made friends with a couple of the girls, so they let us take showers in their dorms. And that's where Wilbur met Julie.
It was a wicked snowing winter night, and I went up to the lounge in my dorm, and there was this handsome man there, all by himself, just Will and his guitar. I felt like I'd been transported, fallen under the spell of magic music, and Will in particular. And I was ready for love, man, I was ripe.
Everything is floating and everyone is free.
I was really excited when she came to live up in our little compound up in El Dorado Canyon because I was the only woman there. We lived up there the whole winter, and that was one of the coldest winters on record. 35 below zero.
Winter, for me at 18 or 19, the winter seemed like it went on forever. Not going to happen for another winter in the school buses in El Dorado Canyon. I think that was a little rough. A lot of good music was written, but you wouldn't want to do that every winter. Hunting the Real House was very much in order. And Flatbush went off one day and drove up to Allens Park and I think rented this house, which was how we got to Allens Park.
I don't even know how I wound up in Allens Park, but I did. I remember it having little cabins and a dirt road and an outhouse. It was just beautiful in the aspen trees. And it was a very simple, pure life as far as I was concerned. You get up and you start the fire. Chop the wood, start the fire. I had one of the cabins, which is how I met the guys from Magic Music.
There we had gotten away from the school bus. We actually had roofs over our heads, real roofs.
It was just this tiny, tiny, tiny little community. In the beginning, Allens Park was full of really unique people.
The older folks took to us, and some didn't. And Dern Fernfritter, who ran the store at Ferncliff, and his wife didn't. Further up the road was the wizard behind his desk at the post office, who loved us most of all, Otto.
There was Zeke. He had the cabin down there, and he was always trying to screw everybody he could.
Zeke used to pick up a sitar and kind of get all enchanted and play something on it. Lots of characters kind of tucked away. They all accepted us for some odd reason. I mean, it was like, why in the world would they accept the rack of hippies that play music? But I guess they would hear us at the HummingBIrd, you know, playing for dinner, and they thought it was okay.
Like I do.
They literally fed us and kept us alive at different times, and then we started doing concerts, little miniature concerts in the HummingBIrd Cafe, and people would come from all over the place.
The HummingBIrd Cafe, I felt lifted off the ground. You know, that probably was pot smoke too.
And we'd play an evening of music, and then these guys would all leave and go back to the city and say they went to this great spot. The charisma of that carried itself a long way. Sort of like then off they went into the snowstorm, you know, trekking away. Do they have a house? They don't need a house. They're magic music.
For me to go.
What were your first impressions of my dad when you first met him?
First impressions of your dad was he was a great guitar player. I think I was 18. We all ended up at this thing, I think it was called Woodstock West. Your father, Chris, better known to me as Spoons, started playing music with me, and we had a great time.
He was just, you know, down to earth with his pickup truck and his ponytail and his guitar. I never even realized that he had family money, which he did. He always downplayed himself.
Starting is the hard part. You're always looking back, like heading east at sunset. You're staring rolls you.
I was supposed to go back to Colorado Academy for my senior year of high school, and at that point, Humpty Dumpty wasn't going to go back together again. Called up my folks and said, I'm not coming home, and I'm not going to boarding school. So my parents basically cut me off and disowned me. I wanted to play music. I wanted to play music professionally. And when I went out to Colorado, because I knew Will was out there. Somehow I knew that. I wound up sort of being their opening act at the HummingBIrd Cafe.
I found a textbook, and it was a whole excerpt of Timothy Leary's speeches. And I remember that turn on, tune in, drop out, is that right? I guess in a sense a lot of us did it. It's a song about when I'm trying to explain that to my parents. It's just always very hard.
It sort of becomes an alternative family. It's a community that's created as a replacement for the family that you had that was dysfunctional and wasn't working. So I went up there and they said, "Oh yeah, come on in." And I was fascinated by, especially because they were breaking new ground, and there's this beautiful, rich sound of these two guitars. I was enthralled by it. I mean, it was like going to school for me. It was right where I wanted to be.
I was gonna ask, how did you guys keep in touch?
You know, we didn't do phones and stuff like that. It's hard to describe the freedom that we had at that time. It was, first of all, none of us made any money, and it wasn't, my rent was $14 a month. And secondly, I never even had to think of rent. I was just living with whoever was paying the rent, and we don't even know how it happened. People just showed up. Lonzo came up, and all these people came to visit us.
Lonzo and I really connected, and we started playing together. And we did a whole lot of gigs, opening basically for Magic Music. And I'd met this sort of New York family that had moved out, and they're living in houses that have no running water, have only electricity, and have no heat other than wood. This is really a different thing for them. Now, the New York family seemed to survive by selling LSD. And I drove Lonzo out to Fort Lupton, Colorado, to meet a Greyhound bus, get these big bags full of orange sunshine. And Judy was part of the New York family.
She came up to see us. We were in the cabins, and they were playing music, and Judy was a musician and a dancer. It was all just a natural flow.
She kind of sparkled or gave off energy that made you notice her. Always taking pictures and constantly in motion, the hummingbird. And I was drawn to her right away. I knew we would be friends.
There was Feather and there was Judy. They just arrived. We were the girls.
I was seeing your father at that point, and Judy came up, and I kind of hooked Spoons and Judy up. That's how I used to do things. Hook them up, and I was on to the next. I was out of there.
I rented this little cabin, Tiptoe, and we spent one night sitting in Tiptoe talking for about, I think it was all night long. The day is drawing to an end, and I know that the morning will stand.
I don't remember what we said other than there was this connection between the family she'd found and the family she'd left. And the family she'd left was broken, and the family she'd found was imperfect. And basically that was my story too. Shortly thereafter, we started euphemistically dating. She was 23, I was 19, and she had this wonderful sense of adventure.
So that's when they really all got together as a really strong family. They were always a strong family, yeah, Magic Music. And Judy really became a strong part of them.
We were in Tiptoe that summer, and there was something magic that happened with the relationship between Judy and I. This morning, I woke and you went your way, and that is such a good thing to do any day. My gosh, this is first love. We were really over the top. I remember, oh God, this will put you in therapy, but I remember we were having a little afternoon delight, don't you know? And at one point in the afternoon, this amazing breeze just blew through the cabin. At that moment, she said, I think we may have just made a baby. And I remember feeling so euphoric about the way we were getting along that it was like, oh, that's fine.
How would you describe the relationship?
Electric. Supercharged.
She kind of blossomed into being more free during that period. And then she got pregnant with you.
When was the first time you heard of Judy being pregnant?
Wow. Well, you were the first baby, right? And I remember her pregnant. She wasn't very tall, you know, and she came out, she had this seriously little belly that came out, and I was so impressed with the whole look of it.
I can remember being a little bit surprised myself. Oh, really? Oh, well, cool. You know, great.
My God, you're bringing a person into the world. You have no job. You're living in a cabin for $25 a month. Oh man, your life is over. You're gonna have to go to work and sell shoes. So I was 19 years old, you know. Yeah, so I was clueless.
We had a following, and we would play this music that I think was pretty ethereal. But at a grassroots level, it really picked up momentum.
The strength of the name Magic Music was such that we could put on our own show and pack the place, you know, draw 500 people.
They'd done some amazing things to open for the Young Bloods and Richie Havens and all this stuff, and they were considered the next big thing to come out of Colorado.
We played this concert in Denver, the first stop of Cat Stevens' tour. We brought all the dogs and everything down there and got promptly kicked off the tour. Just shortly after that, I think we flew to LA.
We were in LA. We had interest from Elektra Records, big interest from Elektra Records. They just didn't think we had written a hit song yet. We took a break to come back home to Colorado, and then we were supposed to go back to LA, and that's when both Toad and Will came to me and said, you know, we really don't want to go back to LA. You're pretty much the only one who really wants this, Lynn. We just want to hang out at home with the dogs and the girlfriends. And I was like, what? You've got to be kidding. After we've come this far and we've gotten this close, you're not gonna go for it? You're not gonna go get this contract? We've worked so hard. No, we're not gonna do it. And I said, well, then there's nothing more I can do. I quit.
Nobody wanted Lynn to be hurt, and nobody wanted to take anything away. In the same sense, everybody really wanted to play with spoons, and there was no reason not to do it. Magic Music truly became a different band, you know.
So they asked me to be the guitar player in Magic Music, and I think I saw a light at the end of the tunnel then. If I'm going to be the guitar player in this band, we can make money in this band. Because, I mean, you had to realize I'm a high school dropout. Judy didn't have an education. We have no visible means of support in raising a child. She was making bags and selling leather goods and stuff, and we're living on less than $100 a month. And she was scared. She didn't know if I was going to be there. And I sort of said, you know, my head's on straight. I'm here. I know what I'm doing. I got a gig with this band, and it's going to be okay.
And I hoped that Spoons could make gigs and like go to rehearsals and stuff like that. And this wasn't going to interfere with a band, was it?
We sort of survived through the winter, and spring comes real late to the Rockies. So by the end of April, it's still blowing and cold up in Allen's Park. And I said, we got to get out of here. You're getting close to having a baby. So I think about May 1st, we went down to Boulder, rented the apartment on 19th and Arapahoe. I remember getting up that morning because we were thinking, finally summer's coming to the mountains. So we got to have something to live in. I'd come up with this, what I thought was a brilliant idea. So I'd gotten these big iron hoops together and canvas. You know, we're gonna live in the Conestoga 51 Chevy for the summer with a brand new baby. No running, okay. Anyway, she went into labor that morning.
I remember being at your birth, and there were no natural births in the hospital. Judy was just right there on the bed.
I had on my best gig shirt, which she made for me. The whole room was filled with people taking pictures. Jonathan Medrick was there. His nickname was Uncle Zeke, and he played sitar. And Jonathan said, we should name him Cedarwood. We sort of decided that Cedarwood was a little too hippie, so we'd go with Cedar. And I'd go out, put bolts on the truck and put the Conestoga together. And I'd go in and, how you doing? Well, contractions are okay. And she had a midwife, Gina Simpson.
Hi. Yes. Hi. It's Cedar Daniels. Yeah. How are you doing? Good. I need to set up an appointment. Soon as whatever you got. Soon. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. That's fine. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Appreciate it. Bye.